There's a certain brand of crazy you only witness when someone bangs on your glass door at 6 a.m., rocking a sash that says HOA event chairwoman and brandishing a clipboard like a judge at the Olympics. There I was, halfway into my first cup of coffee, still in pajamas, hair all wild, barely awake, when this woman starts in not so much as a good morning, just, "We'll need your property cleared by Friday for our family reunion." No explanation, no context, like I was just supposed to hand over my house for a party I hadn't even heard about. And you know what? Her confidence, her sheer gall woke me up quicker than any caffeine ever could. At first I thought I'd misheard her, but she barreled right inside, eyes sweeping my living room like she was already planning where to put the buffet table. "This whole area is going to be the centerpiece," she declared, totally ignoring me, then tossed out a smile so forced it felt like a threat. "You understand, right? It's for the community." Right. At that moment, my golden retriever Hank wandered in, glanced up at her, and sneezed so hard I swear it was nature itself rejecting her presence. Thing is, I'm not even part of the HOA. Never have been. My granddad bought this land way before any of them dreamed up their little fiefdom, and the property line is as solid as the stone marker he set in the ground. The HOA wraps around us like a too-tight belt, and boy do they hate not having control. My cabin sits right on the lake, a peaceful spot with a private dock, enough gravel for my truck and boat, and the kind of quiet most folks spend their whole lives chasing. But for Karen, the self-proclaimed Queen Bee HOA president, it was just land she couldn't rule over. At least not until she showed up at my door. "You want me to vacate my own house so your family can throw a party on my land?" I asked, still trying to process the level of nerve it took to say that out loud. She just rolled her eyes, all dismissive, and goes, "It's not about you. It's about the community experience. We already sent out the invites." Like seriously, they'd printed invitations before even asking me. "You'll be reimbursed for any inconvenience and we'll leave the place spotless," she promised, as if that fixed everything. It was so absurd I couldn't even laugh. She'd invited almost 200 people and expected to use my lawn, my dock, and my parking lot. She even assured me, "We'll have porta potties." "We're not monsters," said it with such smug certainty that for a second I wondered if I'd woken up in some parallel universe. "You do realize none of this is HOA property, right?" I asked, just to make sure she wasn't actually insane. She waved that off like it was just a speed bump. "Well, we consider it a gray area. Technically, your driveway connects to the HOA road, and there are easement clauses for community events." That's when it hit me she wasn't asking. She was telling. And if I didn't draw a line right now, she'd bulldoze right over me. My granddad had fought this battle before going all the way to court to keep this land private. There's a cement boundary marker at the shoreline, just in case anyone forgets. Karen decided to skip the legal stuff and try a hostile takeover. I told her plain and simple to leave. She smirked, said, "Well then, I guess we'll do it the hard way," and strolled out, clipboard swinging like she'd won a prize. I stood there a long time staring at the door, trying to process the fact that she thought she could just walk all over me in my home. It wasn't even about the party, it was about control. Last year, Karen threatened to fine a neighbor because their kid's kite flew over the property line. She once cited a widow for having the wrong color welcome mat. Now she'd graduated to attempted land theft, and the worst part, I knew she'd try to follow through. Later that day, I went down to the dock to clear my head, hoping Karen would realize how ridiculous this was. Instead, I found a stack of folding chairs and a huge tent delivered already on my gravel lot. I snapped photos and texted them to my lawyer. By that evening, an email from the HOA popped up in my inbox, subject, "Event placement and temporary cooperation request." It read like a legal threat. "We're doing this whether you like it or not," complete with a map of my cabin labeled Staging HQ. They had a live band, fireworks, a bounce house, and it was all supposedly funded by HOA dues. Non-participating members may still be asked to accommodate community activities, it said in bold. I'd never felt more like a target. Next morning, 2 HOA workers were on my lawn hammering stakes for food trucks. I confronted them. Just following orders, they shrugged. I called the sheriff. When the deputy arrived, he barely needed me to explain. "Let me guess, Karen." He sighed. "She's planning a family reunion on my property." He looked around, tired. "Technically, it's civil. You could file trespassing, but it'll take weeks, so I was on my own. This place isn't just a house to me. It's home. It's memories. It's family. Every floorboard and tree." Karen wanted to erase that so she could play queen for a day. That's when I realized if she wanted to play games, I'd make sure she lost. The next morning, HOA volunteers were back. More banners, more cones, more people treating my property like a public park. Some woman I didn't recognize tried to hand me a clipboard asking if I was the caretaker and could sign off on their permit. I nearly laughed. She claimed Karen told everyone the owner was away and I was just managing until the party was over. I grabbed the clipboard. It was a fake permit stamped with legal-sounding gibberish and no signatures, no authority, nothing official. "I'm the owner," I said loud enough for everyone to hear. "And this is trespassing." They scattered like pigeons. I ripped down the banners, tossed cones in the bin, and that's when I spotted a plastic pipe running from the clubhouse straight into my yard, water already trickling out. They'd rerouted stormwater onto my property, probably hoping to turn it into a muddy mess and scare me off. I shut off the valve and cut the pipe, but now I had the blueprint for my own response. Later I went to see Uncle Ray, my granddad's best friend, the only guy who knew the old infrastructure. When I explained, his face turned dark. That HOA's been itching to grab your land for years. But if they're stooping to this, they messed up. You got the old flood valve working. We dug out blueprints lines for drainage pumps installed in the 70s for emergencies. "Run it a couple hours," Ray said. "You'll have yourself a shallow lake just enough to ruin their plans." Back home, I found the control panel tested, everything checked. Sandbags made sure no water would hit my house. By dusk, Karen was outside in big sunglasses and a headset directing deliveries like she was filming a movie. She even had a private security guard posted up waving at me. That night, I checked everything one more time, knowing they had no clue what was about to hit them. Morning came, and the whole circus was in place. Rows of chairs, tables, torches, coolers, kids running wild, DJ van cranking music. Karen strutted around, glass of champagne in hand, acting like she'd conquered Rome. I watched, waiting for just the right moment. When the event was in full swing, I brought the remote control inside, sat in my recliner, looked out at the chaos, and pressed the button. Nothing happened at first, but within minutes I heard the first shouts. "Hey, there's water coming out of the ground," someone yelled. Another voice. "Why is the lot flooding?" I walked outside, coffee in hand, and watched the water spread slow and relentless, soaking everything in its path. A bounce house started listing to one side. Sandwiches floated away. The party turned into a swamp. Karen, now up to her ankles in muddy water, shrieked at the DJ to unplug his speakers. But it was too late. The whole lot was a lake. Then the sheriff pulled up again, wading through the mess. Karen ran to him, soaked and furious, demanding I be arrested for sabotage. The deputy just asked, "Is this your land?" I handed over the deed and the old flood management permit. He read it, looked at Karen and said, "Looks like a water issue on private land. Couldn't arrest me for managing my own runoff." Karen went pale, shrieking about lawsuits, but the deputy warned her she was the one trespassing and maybe even creating a public nuisance. The crowd fell silent as Karen's meltdown went viral, phones everywhere recording every second. What happened next? Well, it's the kind of twist you don't expect outside a movie. A teenage boy, maybe 16, started live streaming phone pointed right at Karen. Here's the truth. He told the camera, "My mom told everyone this was legal HOA land. It's not. She lied, faked permits, tried to flood the owner out first. He called her out live for everyone to see, and she lunged for his phone, but he just kept streaming." By the end of the day, the whole world had seen Karen's meltdown. Someone uploaded the video, HOA President Karen gets dunked by her own son at lake disaster reunion. Within hours, there were memes, news crews, the works. Local papers called it the Great Lakefront Flood. HOA board members quietly started a petition for her removal. By the next meeting, she was out 42-3. It didn't stop there. County auditors found years of Karen's financial abuse, sketchy invoices, fake expenses, personal spending masked as community costs. She was fined, barred from ever serving on a board again, and her house went up for sale not long after. By fall, she was gone, the lake was quiet, and peace slowly seeped back in. Even the board reached out, apologized, promised to leave my property alone and fix their own bylaws for good. People came by, neighbors waved, kids asked if they could fish. I put up a bench near the trees with a plaque. Respect the land, and the land will respect you. It wasn't just about winning. It was about restoring something good. I even got a note on the bench one day. Thanks for standing up for us. Some of us didn't know how. No signature, just a sign that the storm had shifted more than just the water on my lawn. And you know the world kept turning. I fixed the dock, replanted grass, taught local kids how to fish. Karen's disaster became a warning and a meme, but more than anything it reminded everyone this place has a memory. Power fades, but land, family, and community, those roots run deeper than anyone's rules or titles. The lake remembers. And now so does everyone else. So yeah, I guess you could say justice found its way back home. But I'll let you decide, was I right to fight back the way I did? Was it justice or just revenge? I'm curious to hear. Where do you draw the line when it comes to standing your ground, especially when it's the only thing left that's truly yours? Let me know what you think in the comments.